Welcome back to another Laois Talks podcast. We are, as always, we're back in the home base today. So depending on the order these come out, there's other ones we've done that are remote from here. But tonight we're going to be talking about a very important topic, particularly this time of the year, which is mental health. So we've got some guests on board, and I'm going to start here on my left with
Paddy Boogie,
our regular host, and of course,
I'm Jacqui Crutchley.
And what do you do, Jacqui?
I'm a mental health first aid instructor.
See, we have the experts inside. That's a great description. And of course we have as well.
I'm Donal. I'm from Portlaois.
Just a randomer. Walked in off the road a few minutes ago.
I just keep doing this now. It's a bit of a habit.
The regular randoms. But we have been trying to get something with mental health on since we started this, which is a topic that plays close to everybody's heart. I think everybody has either suffered from some sort of mental health distress at some point or another, or they know somebody who does. Maybe young people, particularly men, I think as well, tend to hide it, keep it low amongst themselves. But Jacqui, I want to ask you, why don't you kick it off for us? Tell us what the first aid part of it is first.
All right, well, I'll start off with some figures first of all, because it's very important to know how many people actually struggle with their mental health. So in Ireland, we're looking at 1 in 4, maybe 1 in 5 of the population. And we look at that number and we think, actually, how many is that? So I ask the question normally on my training. So how many people fit into Croke Park?
60,000, was it?
70,000.
80,000.
80,000.
82,300. Okay.
Wow, that's exact.
Mm-hmm.
That's bragging now.
That's before COVID restrictions.
It's a COVID hotspot.
Right. So how many people, what's the population of Southern Ireland?
4.5 or 4.7 million, something like that.
Almost 5 million.
Right.
Okay. So that's Croke Park 12 times right now that is struggling with a mental health difficulty. And we've all tried to walk out of Croke Park when there's 82,000 people squeezing. And you can just imagine that 12 times over right now struggling with a mental health difficulty. And that's why when it comes to the mental health first aid, what we want to do is be that first responder, just like a physical first aider, your first responder to anyone who is struggling with a difficulty.
But mental health is a broad thing, right? So we start with something like mild anxiety, I'm imagining at the beginning of it, which is a mental health difficulty.
Or mild depression, yeah. So
at what point do you get involved?
Early intervention. So I try to explain mental health and mental illness on a continuum. And if you can picture 4 different categories, the first color being green, the second color being yellow, then orange, and then red. And you can see where I'm going with this. So when you're in the green section, you're mentally healthy, mentally fit, you look after yourself, you take care of your mental health, as well as your physical health, because I don't want to separate mental health and physical health off at the shoulders. So what we want to encourage people to do is look after their physical health and their mental health all at the same time. Just like you go out for a run or a walk will help with your mental health. The next color, then yellow, so that is reacting. We start to feel a little bit down, get a little bit anxious, start to worry, fear sets in. And if you don't go back into the green, you don't look after your symptoms, you then move over into the orange section. And your orange is injured then. And then red being a mental illness, a diagnosable mental illness. And it's really difficult to move a person back from the red section all the way down back into the green section where they're mentally fit. Not impossible, because with the right supports, the right help, the right diagnosis, the person can and does recover.
So at the red section is chemical intervention. That's where you're probably going to go to the chemical means. Is that what we're looking at? Is that as far up as you can?
Medication, probably, yes. Once you've gone and had the diagnosis, you've gone to your GP, you've got the intervention, yes, depending on what. So when it comes to depression, and it's not about diagnosing, the course is definitely not about diagnosing, it's all about understanding what the person is going through. So with mild depression, exercise, meditation, gratitude, mindfulness, those are really the key elements to getting better.
And how long have you been practicing this? I mean, how long have you been involved in the mental health awareness part?
I've been doing this training for almost 2 years now.
All right.
So it's through Mental Health First Aid Ireland that I do the training for them.
And has it been since the lockdown started? Lockdown has obviously played havoc with people's mental health, physical health as well, of course, right behind that. Everybody put on a few extra pounds, COVID pounds, of course.
COVID pound. It has, but fortunately for us, we went online in May last year, and I've been doing it's a 2-day program that we run, and I've been doing it online, which has been fantastic to be able to still reach people. In Mental Health First Aid Ireland, we have trained over 12,000 people now in the First Aid program.
So those first aiders can go and help other people, or they're, all right, that's very good,
Yeah. So they trained, it's a 2-day program, but they trained to spot the signs of someone who's struggling and actually intervene, step in. I ask everybody when they start the course, if I could award you one superpower, what would that superpower be? And people say flying, reading your minds, time travel, whatever it is. And I say to them, well, I'm going to give you 3 superpowers after this course. The first superpower is the confidence to know that you're there with the person and you can talk to them. The reason why God gave you 2 ears and only 1 mouth is because you listen twice as much as you actually speak. So that's the confidence to approach the person and have the conversation. The second superpower is persistence. Don't let the person go. Actually go back and have the conversation again. And expect the rejection. When you say to someone, how are you doing today? And they go, I'm grand. And you just feel that, no, they're actually not okay. So you say something else. And expect that they might reject you because they're trying to mask something. They're trying to hide away. They're hiding what's going on for them. And then the third superpower is patience. Patience to be able to be with that person and take them through a journey. Obviously with boundaries, we've got to understand we've got to have our own boundaries in that too.
Well, I find being an Irish male, we are trained to not have emotions.
I'll give you another statistic there. 78% of Irish men will not talk about their mental health.
Yeah, I'd well believe that. I would have thought it was actually a bit higher even.
I'm actually surprised with that. I thought that had all changed. I mean, there's a lot on social media from a lot of guys who were talking about their mental health. I'm actually surprised that that statistic.
The younger generation. The younger generation will talk, but men will not then go into saying, I need help.
Okay.
They might say something, but they're not going to go for the help.
Help is very difficult though, isn't it? I mean, I know from experience with a very close friend of mine who has been in a hospital. It took 2 months for him to go from the point where he went in to the point where he came out. And look, the work they did in there was fantastic. He's the best I've seen him in 10 years, you know, and he's probably back in that yellow zone or that green zone. And it's fantastic. But yeah, I'm very surprised to hear that, you know.
When you say 78%, from what age up are you talking about?
That stat is men in general,
right,
but
okay.
we do have very high numbers between the ages, with general mental illness between the ages of 19 to 24, and then 45 to 56. And you can see, and once again, that leads into suicide numbers also.
That kind of ties in though with different decades of when the country was either doing well or not doing well. Am I wrong in that?
Yes, and then where are you at in your life at 45 to 50? You know, you're coming to promotions and career changes and maybe businesses. So
then it's difficult to change that age as well. So if a job disappears or your lifestyle changes and you can't, it's hard to realign, to retrain, to do something else. I suppose
so lifestyle, once again, divorce happens. So in that age category, what happens in life? But yes, you're right, 2008, 2009, 10, very high suicide rates, and they have come down.
Yeah. So if I was a mental health first aider after doing the 2-day course, what does that do for me? I know you were talking about the superpowers and all that, but those superpowers, do they translate into you being able to identify people within your group, within your colleagues, whatever group of people you might be in? Are you picking people out in that group, or Or what is that? Are you just there for them to come to you, or are you more proactive than that? Are you
more proactive? So
okay?
What the 2-day course covers is we introduce people to what is mental health,
Okay.
what is mental illness, and that's where the stats come out. So 1 in 5 of the population will be struggling right now. Then we talk about an action plan. So we give you a 5-step process of how to approach someone, then how to listen and communicate non-judgmentally, because we're human. We all judge people, right?
Yeah.
So when someone is struggling, how to put judgment aside. And then looking at supports, either practical supports, emotional supports, but most importantly, hope for recovery. And then it's encouraging the appropriate professional help. So to be able to get someone to the right supports.
Okay.
So that's the framework that we teach you. Then we start to look at 4 areas: depression, and the crisis situation for depression we cover is suicide and self-harm. Then we look at anxiety, and the crisis situation in anxiety would be panic attacks or traumatic event, witnessing a traumatic event. And then we do cover psychosis, and now it's one of the lesser mental illnesses, especially in this country. However, it's a great way of understanding someone who has a very severe mental illness can and does live a very fulfilled life. Okay, and then we cover substance use and the aggressive behaviors, or the substance abuse is generally a secondary effect to something that's going on.
Am I right in saying that it's a chemical imbalance essentially within your body that's causing that's why when you exercise you feel better, because different chemicals are being released, that painkillers and things inside your own body that's happening there. So some of this comes down to a chemical imbalance, but some people do get confused between having a blue day, they're not feeling good today,
And
versus
depression.
versus the full depression.
Yeah.
Which is a proper chemical imbalance, which can be treated
Correct.
with medicine or medicinally. How would you be able to tell the difference in that? How would you even begin to understand a patient like that? I hate to say patient, but you know what I mean. Someone who gets in touch with you.
Well, do you want to give my point of view as, right, Eamon jumped in here. Hi, everyone.
Yeah, Paddy's not changed, all of a sudden.
Yeah,
That's it.
I've got younger and looker. So, yeah. I can talk about mental health first, because I have suffered from depression, and I didn't know. I lay in bed for 3 or 4 days thinking I'll be all right. I never dealt with it. Family were trying to help me out, was pushing everyone away. And this was a number of years ago. And I finally went and talked to someone. It's the best thing I ever did. The longest sleep I've ever had after that session. Then I went to 2 more sessions, and they helped. Then the first step is I went to my doctor, and they gave me the medicine and all that stuff. But what really caused this was I was driving along, not about a normal day, and just pulled over on the side of the road and just broke down in tears. Didn't know what was going on, just didn't know who to ring, what to do, or anything like that, because I just didn't know what was going on.
So to go back to your question, what's the difference between sad, blue, not getting out of bed, and then depression? And unfortunately, we've used the word "I'm depressed" far too often.
It's a flippant word, isn't
Yes.
it? We kind of just throw
Exactly.
it out. Yeah.
People don't understand that it is a diagnosable mental illness. So, yes, when you're struggling, there's criteria involved to be diagnosed with depression. So, not wanting to get out of bed one day is not depression. 2, 3, 4, up to 15 days is when they're going to look at you and say, right, you're not getting out of bed. What else? What are the other symptoms that you have? And that's where then you'll be diagnosed.
What is it? Your appetite? Not knowing what hour of the day it is nearly.
You've lost pleasure in your normal activities.
Your interaction on social media and your phone, things like that, it just all goes like. And that's like, I've no problem hiding this. I'll put it up and can be always cheering and have the crack and all that, but not dealing with we call the word not dealing with your shit and not talking about it is just the biggest problem. Like, my relaxation was horses. Working with the horses, because they never judge you, they were calm. It was great to be around, and it just relaxed you. So what I've noticed now is I'm actually able to, what you said before, is you're able to notice these things with my own friends and all that. And I've actually pulled up a number of my friends in doing this and just asking, is everything okay? Kind of trying out what I observe with them. And they go away, yeah, everything's okay. But then they ring you back about 2 or 3 days later going, actually, thinking about maybe, yeah, actually you were right about that.
Yeah, I wasn't right.
You know? And like, this is why it's a strong topic to me. And I don't mind talking about it and expressing it because I've dealt with and having good people behind you and friends and all that. That's what's, and talking to them is the major thing. Like, you know, there was a phase we were going through there and suicide was just massive. It wasn't happening. It wasn't happening every month. It was nearly every, 2 or 3 times a week. Like,
Do you know when as I grew up and went through my 20s, 30s, in my 40s now, I know I don't look it, but there you go. But,
You look 60.
How dare you? But I remember I was mad into motorbikes as a younger guy, and fast cars, like most kids, right? And unfortunately, I lost a few friends in car crashes and motorbike crashes down the years, but that then all stopped. But my God, the amount of friends and acquaintances that I've lost, and people I knew that have been lost to suicide, just in Portlaoise, it's absolutely frightening. It's and there's a particular one this year that hit me hard, and and you just can't get your head around. You can't get your head around, the such a permanent solution to what is really only a temporary problem, and my biggest fear and doubt is that anything can be done for somebody that is so determined, and I'd love to know what could be said. I'd love to know what could be done to.
But that's the problem, though. You're just saying they're on, like, people beat themselves up. Going, why didn't I talk to them? Why didn't I notice this? Sometimes they hide it so well you don't notice it.
Yeah.
It's like just a normal guy, and then it's like you can throw on the mask and pull off the mask, and then you're in a different person.
Yeah,
like.
but I've seen that, and so for Jacqui to be talking about this and to be in a position, I'd say even if you're a black belt at first aid, mental health first aid, I'd say you're still going to miss a few shots.
Of course you are.
Yeah.
And people do hide it. And I want to encourage everybody to get on some form of mental health training, whether it be this mental health first aid. And I've spoken to Eamon about offering it into the community, and I'm happy to do that. But there are other courses to go on. Safe Talk. The HSE runs Safe Talk. It's a half-day program where you can start to identify suicide warning signs. Okay, we're not going to get it all, unfortunately. There are people, and in the Safe Talk training, Safe Talk, in the Assist training, which is a 2-day program that the HSE run, they do talk about the river of suicide, and people will get into that river and swim to the other side from their away from their closest family. So they will hide it. We won't spot it. They do say that there are definite warning signs. Getting your affairs in order, giving away prized possessions, those little things. But people don't notice that. And they don't look, it's not obvious.
But see, the other thing too is, like, mental health is not, that's the one thing you've noticed as well. It's not all towards suicide. It's just people can suffer from mental health all their life and not think about suicide.
Exactly.
It's just that the thing is, they need the friends, they need the people to talk to, they need those outlets. And like, they need maybe a project or an activity or something to do. Like, and like I said, my outlet was with the horses and things like that. Yeah. Then now I'm going back doing the gym and things like that. And to be honest, it's brilliant. You sleep better. Like, there was times there, you'd be lying awake 5:30, 6 in the morning. You fall asleep, alarm goes off, you've 2 hours sleep. And you're trying to survive on that. Like.
Yeah, you can't. And sleep hygiene, eating properly, exercise are your 3 key elements. And then you talk about chemicals in your brain. I love to talk about the happy chemicals because we often
runner's high and that kind of, it's described as that, but that's a chemical thing.
But a lot of us go on fight, flight, or freeze mode all day, every day. We're fighting in the traffic, we're fighting with our boss, we're fighting with this, we're fighting with the queues in the bank, whatever it is. That's adrenaline and cortisol that is pumping through your body the whole time. And those are not healthy for you. When we were living in the plains of Africa and we had to run away from the lions, yes, you needed the adrenaline to keep your body going. But we don't live like that anymore. We are living in that state because of the animosity and the fear that's going on. So I talk about the happy chemicals: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, the runner's high. So yes, exercise, proper sleep, 1 piece of dark chocolate, cold showers. We can't swim in the sea, unfortunately, in leash. But you know what? A cold shower. I struggle in the winter, but I will do it in the summer. That just gives you a nice serotonin high. A hug. Eamon talks about his horses. That's oxytocin. Stroking a cat, playing with a dog, being with the horses. That's oxytocin.
You have to be in that moment though. I do find there's times where you pet an animal, but you're only doing it absent-mindedly. You're actually concentrating on something else. You kind of have to do what you're supposed to do. Yes, the mindfulness part of it that people completely avoid. It's that thing with the cold shower or jumping into cold water or even splashing cold water on your face actually creates chemical reactions inside your body as well, which I did learn on another sports thing that I was doing one time. It does create a chemical reaction inside your body. Everything causes it. How would someone recognize their own problems? How would you know?
Great.
What's the first thing you would inside yourself without having to look for? Like, I find it amazing that there's a 2-day course I never heard of in the HSE. It's probably free and nobody talks about it, right?
That's why.
So
Assist.
So it's totally, it's there, but we could use it, but nobody really promotes it because we don't promote mental health in this country. But how would someone recognize their own red flags popping up?
Good question. You know, you look at it and you think, what are the signs? You know, am I feeling like I don't feel like interacting with people? Because generally withdrawal is part of that. You know, I don't feel like going out. I'd rather stay at home. Eating, don't feel like eating anymore. You know, I'm not sleeping properly.
Not participating in life, sort of thing, right?
Not participating in life.
So once that starts, it's a sort of a slope that you're on. You've started into it. Well, is that the way you were? Is that what you started back out of?
Yeah, I was pushing people away. Like, I wasn't dealing with my stuff. I just literally let everything build up and build up and build up. And like, as my mother said when I was younger, I had so much energy, and I still do. But she bought me this boxing bag, and she says, just take it out and that, like, you know. And that only did for so long, and then I kind of lost interest in that, and I just looked for other things. But like, I played loads of sport. Like, I was a whippet back when I was 16, 17. I thought I was going to be a jockey. But was towards the horses is where I really found my thing. But yeah, what you're saying, I pushed everyone away. I didn't, like, even, like, to be honest, I'm with a very good partner, a woman now at the moment, and she's like my rock as such, and I hid everything from her as well. I didn't tell her certain things and all that, and now I just don't hide anything from her, and it's the best thing I ever do. And she doesn't judge me, but it's about communicating and talking and getting out there. And like I say to anyone that's listening, if you need an avenue or a space, or just even for a cup of tea and things, like, I'm up here in Vision 85, the door is open, come in. I'm not going to judge you, first of all, anyway. We'll buy a pack of hobnobs and we'll just start trying to get some sort of understanding what the situation is. Like, I'm not trained in this or not, but I've experienced this, so I can deal with them things.
I think probably a good message is you don't have to understand it yourself. If you just feel like there's something wrong, you're probably better off talking to someone.
That's it. You don't get that. Yeah, if you don't get that normal everyday feeling of, you know, what's the word? To be very progressive what you're doing and things, and there's something that's always holding you back. Like I said to you, I've pulled up loads of people, even lads I don't know. I kind of, what's the word? I can nearly sniff it out now. Kind of going, you know, certain ways to hold their body. You know, the way they're just trying to get into a conversation, it's just they want to be part of it, but they're just holding back and things like that. You'll see it in the pub most of the time too.
You see it on the sports field.
Sports field too,
this is where we need to start recognizing where people are withdrawing from sports, or they're getting not aggressive but angry at certain results and things like that, over emotions about things that are missing a goal or something.
But a lot of people in GA are actually looking at other avenues to try. The likes of gambling and the likes of, you know, drugs and things like that, other outlets to try deal with these situation problems. And the quickest, or not the quickest, the easiest scenario is go talk to someone. Yeah. Like, I've had lads, I just, you know, even in Laois here, I recommend going to someone talking to Laois, and they go, no, it's too close to home. What if someone sees me? I'm going to go. And I go, well, there's a number for Offaly. There's one for Tipperary. Yeah. Just go and talk to someone and tell them it'd be the best thing you ever did. And a good few of them after come up and shook my hand and says, you're right. Yeah. Because I'm not saying it because I don't know about it. I understand it. Like, it's happened.
Going on that, we need to share the resources. What is available in Laois? You know, because it took me walking the streets to try and find out what is available. If I was struggling right now, who can I talk to? And I found
that's a very good question. I wouldn't have a clue.
The only thing I'd ever think of is Samaritans, but that would be last resort moment. Only because I grew up on that. That would be, you know, that was always on TV when I was younger as well. Samaritan stuff.
Yeah.
Red Cross, stuff like that, the kind of emergency numbers.
So some people feel they want to go and like face to face and talk to someone and see what, because a lot of people will be kind of going, they're going to judge me over the phone and things. We don't know. It could be anyone. When you're face to face, you're seeing their expression, things like that, and you're feeling a lot more comfortable talking. Like
You're connected.
you're connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's two-way street. Some people don't want to have the face-to-face. Some people just want on a phone. But then the HSE has the texting service for the younger generation, the 50808 number.
Another thing I'd never heard of.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
that's the one.
So I'm going to give the numbers
Yeah,
for Samaritans is
We'll
116.
put all of these in the show notes as well. So
Okay.
we'll put every emergency number we can put into
Okay,
it.
116123 for the Samaritans, and that's a 24/7 talking helpline service. Then the 50808 number, that's just a text. If you don't feel like talking, and the younger generation don't want to verbally talk, so they text, and you just send hello, and the person will come back to you. And there was one other number I was thinking of, but we'll get back to that.
Yeah, well, the Samaritans one. I know the Samaritans one comes up an awful lot. People give that one out because it is a 24-hour live service.
Pieta House, sorry.
Pieta House, yes. That's the other one we've raised money for charity for that. But where, like, you've mentioned some HSE things, and I know that the government and the HSE come under fierce criticism because they've nothing, very little mental health services.
No, they actually have a lot, and this is one of the key aspects of that not understanding your mental health is a negative thoughts around mental health services. There are. And it took me walking the streets to find a beautiful facility in Tullamore called ACT, Access Counselling Tullamore. And a businessman, James, I haven't met him yet, I'd love to meet him actually, who took a abandoned building, fixed it up, and there's a beautiful facility there where you can walk off the street and get counselling for what you can
We
afford.
have a new one as well. It's so sad. Christy Bannon, just down there at Shamrock House.
Where is that?
Shamrock House there beside the gas station.
That's in Portlaoise.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
That's only now relatively new this year.
What do
what
they
is-
offer?
What the-
I'm not too sure on the whole details, but yeah, it's a new charity that was set up. It's mostly mental health. To come in off the street, there's someone there to talk to every day. Sort of job.
We need to know about that.
Yeah, it's literally just around the corner.
Yeah, I did charity work in Tullamore for So Sad. A couple of years ago, we did this 12 kilometres a day for 12 days run thing straight, which was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But we raised some money. It was really good. But like is there still a stigma? Does anybody still feel a stigma around the idea of approaching mental health or talking to your mates about it, or just, going into the pub and going, I don't feel right in the head today, or whatever it is that you phrase it as? Is there a stigma?
I don't think there is. It's like everything else. It's personalities, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like you. If you come up to me and goes, listen, enough, you're like, go away, you're all right, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, they're the things you're going to have, because the last person you're going to expect to be like sad is the happiest person in the group, or the one that's on something correct. Like.
The life is all in the party.
Yeah.
The people that I know, a lot of people that I know that have suffered from mental health, and it's only at the last minute that you find out, and even if you're in their company for quite a while, it's only at that last minute. I mean, and I would put myself down as being very observant and paying attention, but I keep missing it. I keep missing it.
I'm the same, yeah. I'd be the very same.
And I'll be the first to admit that. So that course, I have to say, is very, very interesting. Personally, I'd love to do it, and I will actually. But is there a stigma? I think the stigma exists in the person's head. There's no stigma in society. I mean, back in the day, Joe suffers from his nerves, and, but now we're a little bit more sophisticated. I mean, I can't see any difference between somebody suffering from depression and suffering from diabetes. If your brain isn't producing enough serotonin, to me it's the very same as your pancreas not producing enough insulin. But it manifests itself in a different way, and it manifests itself in your behavior and your outward and your own, I suppose, view of the world. It's kind of like, two people watching the same movie and seeing a different thing,
Interpretation.
a different interpretation. Yeah. But certainly from my point of view, I wouldn't stigmatize anybody that suffers from mental health. I think it's the individual themselves, and there shouldn't be.
It is, but it's also organizations. I mean, when you look at a company and you think, well, am I going to give that person a job? That person or that person? That one has mental health difficulties. Would they be able to cope?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I suppose from an employment point of view, or from future prospects, I suppose,
Of course.
once it becomes a pub, and we are very public, right? I know that you're very public, but also everyone is very public. So they'll go on to Twitter or Instagram, whatever, and let's say, I'm not feeling well today. And then it's a public matter. So everybody now can comment on that one phrase, right?
Yeah.
So once that goes out, I suppose there is that element. And that's something we need to address as well, in that
Social media.
social media is a problem on its
is a
own.
problem.
Yeah, but the other thing is social media. I wouldn't be vocal or anything on social media at all. Like, because you'll have the whole thing is, oh, here's another problem with him. Oh, here's another thing. Like, you don't want to start all this. Like, I'm not looking for pity or attention or anything like that. I'm saying this as an adult and a man, say that, yeah, I've suffered and I've dealt with it and I've come out the other end. And now I love to get involved and help others by giving them an avenue, which is, I have a hub, Vision 85. We have a cafe going in next year. It could be an outlet. We have the barbershop, the hairdresser. There's outlets here. They can come down. And like, even your barber becomes someone to talk to and all. And they're not going to judge you. No one's going to judge a person with mental health problems. They'll probably end up judging, going, "Jeez, he was too quiet." No, there's an issue there, sort of thing,
But it's very hard to join in Ireland, though, isn't it? You know, if you move in, like I came in from Kildare outside, so it took years to figure out what to
but
do.
that's Kildare.
Yeah, I know. And that's only a county over, you know, it's one little county
Still
away.
too far away.
So it's very hard to join into things in Ireland. So if you want to expand, you know, a good way to deal with it is to make friends and to get a common interest, and then you're all in the same sort of place. So to get an interest, like I find that exercise is the way to meet people anyway.
Can you imagine if you got the benefits of exercise and put it into a pill? It would outsell vaccines, Viagra, you name it.
It would, yeah.
Prozac, the whole lot. You know, I would imagine. I mean, there's nothing works as well.
There's nothing. Nothing for me worked as well, that's for sure. I mean, 6 years ago, I gave up smoking. I was drinking too much. I was eating all the wrong foods, and then I started exercise, and everything improved. Not just mental health, but my physical health, my job prospects. Absolutely everything improved just through exercise. So,
but you made a conscious choice. So we go back to, okay, what's the definition of mental health? So it's your thoughts, which create your feelings, and your feelings then create your behavior. Okay, so when someone is struggling, we have to look back. When they start changing behavior, what's happening inside? What's happening with those thoughts? And we can really, when we start noticing what our thoughts are, and going back to you, Eamon, saying, you know, how do we start noticing that people's thoughts start to change for ourselves? We start to think about all the negative thoughts that are happening. And people have up to 80,000 thoughts a day. How many of those are negative? How many of those are positive? And you start evaluating your life. And you start looking at, well, let me think about how many times I'm on the negative side versus on the positive side.
The social media plays into that too, because I find young people judge life by looking at social media. Particularly because from my lifestyle, because I'm a motor journalist, what you see on my social media is brand new cars, things I'm doing, exotic locations that I'm sitting in doing stuff. It looks, and I design it to look an attractive thing because I want you to see it. I want it to be shared. I want it to be commented on. So I designed the pictures to look like that. But then I'm constantly conscious of young people going, you look like you have the best time in the world, when it's not. It's really hard work. Like, there is a lot going on that gets you to that position. But for other people maybe who aren't interested in cars, it must be very, very difficult from a body image perspective, because of course we're very visual animals. We look at videos and pictures and stuff. So how much of what comes at you comes from social media?
Well, this is where, I mean, I only follow personal development because I don't want to, I'm not interested in cars. I'm not going to follow cars, but I'm not going to watch anything about bodies or anything like that, because I'm not going to influence my way of thinking into that. And I love when I see sponsored ads, and be aware of that. People go into the sponsored ads. They don't even realize that it's being geared to them. Look at it. It says sponsored. Don't go into it. You know, so make that choice. Really be aware of the choices you are making.
Because do you find that are you on social media in any sort of large sense? Like, do you spend time scrolling through TikToks or?
No, I used to. Don't do it anymore. Like, you get into business and all that on your own, and like, to be honest, even getting into business was a hard stress time, and like ending up in hospital twice, collapsing because you're burnt out and things like that too, like, didn't help. But so I learned with family and friends helping out to literally delegate things I was good at, my strengths, and then my weaknesses, hand that over to the person that's strong at that, and in doing so I made life a lot easier. be able to grow my business, expand. And what I'm looking to do now is come back and help the likes of a startup to minimize that risk on them and give them direction that, you know, you don't have to do 50 jobs. You can do, but, you know, talk to them. What's your strengths? What's your weaknesses? We'll work it out, create something out of it. The other thing we're talking about here as well is you're saying outlets. Like in Laois alone, there is a lot of, you know what I mean, you got the men's shed, you got the Tri-Laois, you've got, you know, there's a lot, and even GA things that there's a lot of avenues, but not everyone is kind of, you know, attached to those avenues or, you know, can get involved in those something. And the other thing too as well about Laois, we have a fast growing population, we have a fast growing young population, but everyone is coming down from Dublin to Laois, and they're literally coming in, like you said, from Kildare, blank canvas, you know, where do we go, who do we talk to, how do we create that? And there is no kind of I wouldn't call it a drop-in centre, but there is no kind of outlets as such that we're not going to put a big name in the front of it saying, no, mental health, you know, is the main priority here. No, it's an avenue to go in. You know, the Prison Officers Club is a great outlet at times. You go in and play pool, you go in, there was a dance on, there was a band, there was a bit of crack, and that was a great spot, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, some memories, by.
I thought you were going to say that was still there. I was like, how did I miss it?
No, is there a youth centre?
It was great.
Yeah. Is there a youth centre for children or for young
There
adults?
is one there above Subway there. There is a youth.
I think COVID closed a lot of these things off as well.
Well, I was part of the Non-Name Club growing up as well, which was the one for no alcohol for young kids.
That's right, I remember that, yeah. I remember
the time now.
It's not just a given.
We weren't meant to drink, but like everything as a teenager, we're trying, you know, new things.
Yeah.
But alcohol plays a big factor too. I mean, in the youth, anyway, for sure, because of the binge factor. You know, they might not get access to drink all week. We might not get access to drink all week, but at the weekends there could be a binge factor, which upsets the chemical balance of the body again. So again, it's another chemical. So you have to treat everything as a sort of a chemical that's gone in. So is like, even not alcoholism, even not to that level where they're properly diagnosed as alcoholics or alcoholics, is there a path that people can look at in that respect to try and clean out that part of the body, the chemical end of their body?
Well, I mean, you talk about what's binge drinking, and a lot of people don't even understand what binge drinking is, and that's more than 6 units in one sitting.
That's 6 units is not much, though,
No.
when you actually break it down. That's
6 units, not 6 pints.
Yes, that's not 6 pints,
3 pints.
Yeah.
And
That's binge
unfortunately, yeah.
Just must do it every week.
So
That's every night.
And money's easy as well. Like the youth now, like a lot of them are getting. It's easy to get access to money to go out and spend.
But even if they don't go out, they go to Aldi or Lidl or whatever,
House
and they buy
parties,
house party and to
cheap
drink
alcohol.
a complete full bottle of gin or vodka or whatever comes out.
Yeah, we
And
used
it's
to
not
go.
that
We used to go in Linden Village, and we're sharing that between 10. Now they're sharing bottles of vodka, gin.
Yeah,
expensive.
it's as cheap now
Yeah.
to buy that to you know for a night in that ends up being a night out, but they started on the in part. So
They started on in,
yeah, so that's contributing as well, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. So, yeah, we got to actually watch what we put into our bodies, from food to then alcohol, drugs, and feed it with the right, as we said, the happy hormones.
My mother used to say everything in moderation. I didn't understand what that meant when I was a young
We
lad,
never
but-
listen to our mothers.
Yeah,
Just
no.
waiting for a slap in the head after it.
Oh, yeah.
So, just talking about the course you would be interested in doing as well in the new year, possibly if there's anyone listening that are interested, you'd be interested in holding a course.
I would, yes. So I would love to offer the 2-day program to the community in Laois to be able to introduce mental health first aid into the workplace, into your lives. Because what I do get from the course, and I do train a lot of corporate organizations, but they walk away from the 2-day program saying, that didn't only benefit me personally, it's benefited my family, my friends, and my work colleagues. And I do believe just that introduction into having the 5-step action plan around having the conversation really does help people, and having a better understanding of the 4 areas that we do cover.
And what would you do, like if you know, so if you're listening to this podcast right now and you know a family member or a close friend of yours is struggling but is not getting help, what do they do?
Have the conversation with them, speak to them. What's
Confront it
going
head on, like.
Yes, directly, calmly as possible, non-judgmental. We have to remember, and I always say, what happened on Facebook last week is not real life. What happened on Instagram is definitely not real life. So let's look at why the person's struggling. Have the conversation with them. Be patient, be persistent, encourage them to get help. And in Ireland, your first protocol would probably be your GP. Go to the GP. But talk about what's a full body experience, not just the physical symptoms. Because unfortunately, we go to the GP and we talk about, I'm not sleeping. And you literally got, 5 minutes in a GP's appointment?
Yeah.
Okay. So get in there and say, I think I'm struggling with first of all, make the phone call to say, can I have a GP that specializes in mental health? Don't go back to the same GP that the family's been seeing over and over again. So actually ask for a GP, and the practices around Ireland should have one GP that does specialize in mental health. So ask for that person and then say, I am struggling with my mental health.
That's really good advice, as I would have never thought. You ring your GP and just go to the same GP you see all the time.
And I'm not
and I know they're
sleeping.
all trained to listen to you at least, but I didn't know there was specialist ones available to you. So that's really good advice. Remember that one.
Yeah.
So in the new year, all COVID dependent, it's either going to be online, and like I have no problem giving up space here in Vision if I have to do it
I'd
in
love
person
to do
either.
it face to face,
Yeah.
Eamon. So yes, let's book it. Let's do
No
something.
problem. If we get enough people interested, we'll make it happen.
Is there a website or something people can go to that I can get in touch with you?
Well, there will be on the Mental Health First Aid Ireland, MHFA Ireland site is the course. All right. And that'll give you an idea of what the 2-day program consists of. And then between Eamon and myself, you can get hold of Eamon and we'll book it. It must be with leash people. And as I said to him, I want only men. I want to change that statistic, 78%.
That's really, that'd be really wise. The amount, everybody, I know it's often hidden by families. I know there is a family tragedy that appears in the paper that don't talk about being suicide. But the only suicides I can think of that I know definitely were suicides in the last 5 years were all men. All of them. And all of them as old as me, if not near enough as old as me.
Yeah,
all in that kind of plus 40 part.
The numbers in men are much higher, but it's the means that they use. Women are 3 times more likely to attempt suicide, which is unfortunate.
Actually, Jacqui, on that, what is attempted suicide? You hear it so often, and is attempted suicide, is it somebody that has suicidal ideation and they go into a room to do it and then they look at it and say, no, I'm not going to do it? Is that attempted suicide, or is it an actual physical act that doesn't lead to the outcome that they wanted? Yeah, it's probably an ignorant question to ask, but
I would love to know what the medical term for that is, attempted suicide. But my understanding of attempted suicide is that you've actually tried to end your life and it hasn't been successful.
Okay.
So the means that you've used have not taken it to the end.
Okay.
So men are more likely to get to the end.
Because
men are more successful
because
at
of
it.
the means that they use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's why that's why we hear more about men doing it than because we're better at it. I know that sounds very flippant, but
unfortunately it is changing. But yeah, it's the means that men use.
So are men less likely to look for help then? Are men less likely to talk about this?
That's the 78%, yes. They're less likely because of the whole men don't cry, you're the head of the household, you're supposed to be keeping this all together. That stigma. Strong
person, yeah. The strong. That's why I was brought up, is to be toughen up there. Toughen up. You can't be doing that sort of thing.
Jacqui, that 78% of men, is that statistic is peculiar to Ireland?
That is Irish, no, yeah.
But is that Irish in men, or is it all men in Ireland?
Good question.
Yeah.
Well, the stat is 78% of Irish men would not go and look for help, would not reach out.
You'd imagine it'd be based on Irish citizens or, residents.
Yeah.
Living in Ireland.
Yeah.
Let's just talk men.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a lot higher than women. Women do talk, but they have a much higher rate of depression, even though we do talk about it. So
I read somewhere as well, there's a high rate of female alcoholism that's not talked about because they're not as visible an alcoholic, if you follow what I mean.
Yeah.
So they get to a point where
a couple of bottles of wine at home at night.
Yeah, that
functioning,
level.
Functioning.
Perfectly function. They work perfectly, and even a couple of glasses of wine with lunch as well. It's all acceptable stuff, So the level of alcoholism is up there too with women. But when it comes to men, though, we do that thing, don't we? A guy comes in, he goes, "How you going?" "Yeah, I'm grand. Yeah, that's it. That's the end of the conversation on how you're feeling. It's all over."
But the counter to that is that the friend won't say, "No, you're not. Go on, speak to me." And it has to be that two-way street. Communication is two-way, right? So it's the sender, the receiver, the message, and then the feedback. So we have to look at it at all 4 steps of communication.
Sure, it might take 10 pints before they start to open up. And at that time, the person on the other end of the table is at 10 pints too, and they're like, yeah, that's
Can't
grand.
talk.
And they forget about it. Like,
I don't understand a word you're saying anymore.
Next day, a man go, or one of the texts will be, forget everything was on about last night. They'll text back, what are you on about? That's...
Yeah,
You know.
there is a sweep it under the table factor, isn't it? Yeah. It's an oblique subject. It's not something you can look straight at and go, here's the solution to all of these things. There's multiple solutions for multiple people, isn't there?
And that's why I don't particularly like people saying I'm an expert in mental health, because I don't believe anybody is an expert. We've all gone through things and we want to help. And the 2-day program, the framework around having the conversation is the early intervention. It's the start. Just to be able to have that conversation with somebody and guide them and support them in the right direction.
And if you listen to the podcast as well, one thing you should remember is that a little problem to me could be a gigantic problem to you. Could be the biggest thing you've ever faced in your entire life. But I just breeze by it like, I've done this before, it's all okay. So never dismiss someone else's little tiny problem that you think is a tiny problem, but they might think is an enormous thing. It could be a broken nail, but it could be the worst thing that's ever happened in their life. So
exactly.
That's
and
important.
it's resilience.
The worst thing to ever happen to you is the worst thing to happen to you. It's your reality. It's and that's.
But this, like, mental health, it's not just affecting the person. Like, you mean, if you're married with kids and all, affects relationships, affects the kids. Then if something does go wrong, hopefully it doesn't. If you're in college and school, affects your your concentration, your grades, your progression in life, things like that. And there's people, and I know there's a lot of people in GA starting to come out in sports, not even talking about it, that once they came out, like, you've seen a massive difference in their attitude, their approach to things, their achievements. They've actually went back to college in the middle of, say, doing sports to re-educate themselves. They're getting involved in investments, things that they're actually looking. They didn't actually stop and look at their next 2 or 3 year plan. Once they got the assistance and help to communicate, they were able to look 5-10 years ahead, like, and
so important. And I actually just heard on the last 2-day program that I ran now that each GAA club, that's it, has to have a mental health is a welfare officer. Yeah. So I'm hoping that Laois has them.
Actually, don't know either.
I didn't know. Didn't know. Again, because I suppose it doesn't affect me directly. Well, I wouldn't. I suppose it no more than normal suffer from any sort of mental health issues. You'd have a blue day or something. You kind of go, I don't feel like working out. I just want to stay in bed today and do nothing. Yeah. But it's more of a lazy aspect than actually having an imbalance thing to it. But I would sympathise with anybody who's like, because the GA or large sporting bodies, including rugby and stuff, it's only in the last couple of years they've even talked about having gay players. So there's a lot of hidden stuff that goes on in the thought that only heterosexual males play games. But even
in sport, like, there's triggers there. Say you're a jockey and you could have a career-ending injury. You're in football, like, those career-ending injuries could be the spark that's needed for you causing your issues and problems with mental health.
Correct.
And it's just that little trigger. A person can go 30, 40, 50 years of age and be perfect, and then that one little trigger, could put his back out, and that could be send them over to. It could be building up for those 50 years, and that one trigger just pushes them over the edge. And lying in bed like 3 or 4 days, like, I fought myself to get out of bed, but the person wanting to stay in bed always won. Like, they said, I'd be alright, and then eventually just got up, like I said, got the cold shower and all, and that literally got me kind of moving again. And that was only, like, I don't know, many years ago, but it's it's kind of affected me for a while. I mean, you could be grand for a year or two, and next thing suddenly you'll hit one slump and you're back down again, and then you could spend 6 months to a year to try sort it out again.
Yourself up again. But this is important. I talk about self-care, and it's vitally important to keep your tank topped up all the time. Why do you think we get told to put the oxygen mask on first in the aeroplane? Because you cannot help anyone else if you're not breathing. And that's the same with mental health. Keep your tank topped up. Keep your mental health at a level where you're able to help people, where you first help yourself and then help other people. But it's just like going to the gym and keeping fit. I can't get a 6-pack with one sit-up.
We tried.
We have
We
tried.
give it a good go.
But it's the same with my mental health. I'm not going by one day of being mindful or one day of gratitude or one day of meditation, one day of exercise is not going to keep my mental health in the state where it should be. So it is work.
But it's also to get that, like one of my things I figured out was to put, I had so much going on in my head, and to put it out on paper or on a whiteboard or something like that, and literally throw it on the board and walk away from it, and then come back and try to break it down and rub off what's needed, not needed, and things like that, is literally figuring out a plan. And in doing that, it stops a lot of that stress and worry and everything building up. It's just getting out of your head. Like, if you can't, like a filing cabinet, if you can't put it all in each drawer in order, you're going to mess with your head. Like,
and go and get help. You know,
and go ahead,
there is help out there. So come and talk to you.
Well, I've no problem anyone getting in touch, or I mean private mail, and if you want to even text me or ring me under a different name, I don't mind. There's nothing to be ashamed of.
And
It's like it's not like it just happens to you. It happens to
everybody,
you know.
And if there's anybody struggling, you know, you can give up my number too. I really don't mind about that.
Is there something that people? Is there a checklist that you could do on a daily basis to make sure you're doing okay?
Yes. Well, you've got to make it for yourself. You've got to look at what are the ones in my life which are not so great things that I have to do, and what are the 10s. And I've got to focus that I get at least 1 10 in a day. So what is that? A walk. I have the Dysart Hills behind me. That is my sanctuary. I go in there all the time. Exercise, whether it be yoga, whether it be Pilates, whether it be going to the gym, pushing weights, exercise. Proper sleep, very important. People say I can function on 4 or 5 hours. Not a chance. 8 to 10. It's important. The right food, you know, feeding your body with the right food, not junk food, and 3 regular meals a day. So,
and most of those things are free. Like when you think about all the things you can do, they don't cost you money. You don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to just go for a walk.
But it's also acknowledging that you are doing that. So going for the walk, instead of having the news in your head, you know, listen to music. And I listen to binaural beats. So that's the stimulated music that actually gets your brain functioning in the right chemistry for mental health. Or something that's
on Spotify. I've done that.
Binaural
beats. Yeah, it's on Spotify.
What, BINORAL, is it?
AURL.
You need you put headphones on it, and it kind of goes round inside and flips from side to side. It's like it's going through your head.
Cool.
It's really cool. Binaural beats. It's on Spotify. It's free as well.
Yeah.
On a free version. So I'm always into the free things, because there's so many barriers for people, you know, like they say, go join a gym and lift weights every day, but that costs money. Some people just don't have that kind of money to do it, or go running. But again, they have to go by runners or to go by something. But going for a walk or listen to the free version of Spotify and just listen to something like that is all free stuff. You know?
And look, there's lots of apps also, and I'll include them in the bottom of this. But aware.ie is a fantastic website for depression, anxiety, and bipolar. That's all courses that you can attend, and they're free of charge. So aware.ie. Then there's some nice apps. Headspace you pay for. The beginning areas you have to subscribe to. But PTSD Coach is a free app, and it's got fabulous meditations, advice, guidance, all of that on it. There's another one for anxiety called Neurocycle, written by Dr. Caroline Leaf. It's the 21-day brain detox for anxiety. Neurocycle is on both Apple and Android. Free apps.
Amazing. All the stuff out there that I never heard of.
Exactly. It's about looking for it.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It was a brilliant, very informative. The amount of stuff I've learned about headspace tonight is being a part of your brain. All of the stuff we talked about tonight will be in the show notes. The lads have put in everything in the bottom of that. So any links that we have that are here, hopefully we will do something in January. I'd love to attend that. Come up here and do the 2-day thing. To be a first aider in mental health. It'd be brilliant. I think it's a brilliant idea, isn't it, Eamon?
Yeah, definitely.
Let's do
and
it.
And if you're in trouble, the list of all the emergency services are again in the show notes of this right now, or get in touch with the show directly if you want to as well, or in touch with Vision 85 here, and we'll try and talk you through it if you're in Laois.
And I actually want to do one step further. If you know of any services that are really helpful, tell us.
Yeah,
also.
get in touch.
Yeah, please, because I've learned like so many different things tonight that you've mentioned that are free to do that I didn't even know existed. Obviously, that's because I'm not suffering at the moment. But you'd have to Google for these things. Are you going to Google
At your lowest point.
At your lowest point, are you going to pick out your phone and start Googling around? So yeah, it's great to know that they're actually there. So if you do know of anything that's out there that's free or paid or otherwise, or some sort of service we haven't mentioned tonight, get in touch with us on the show as well, please. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank
It's
you
very
very much.
Thanks,
That's great,
everyone.
Jacqui.
Thank you.
We've a bit of tidying up to do before we finish up, by the way. You want to talk about Clonaslee, which is something that's close to my heart as well, the walk in Clonaslee this year.
On St. Stephen's Day, the walk is going ahead this year. I think it's going to be slightly modified in that.
No tea and coffee.
Might be any tea and coffee this year. And in fairness, the people at Clonaslee were brilliant at organising the tea and coffee and sandwiches and things.
Yeah.
But because of COVID this year, I don't think that's going to happen. But the
Big
walk is
C
definitely going
word
to
has
happen.
ruined us again.
It has, but listen,
At least
it
the
is
walk
what it
will
is.
ahead.
Yeah, the walk will go ahead, and that's a great success, and there is a lot of money for the Cúisle Centre every year, and I hope people, and the weather will be suitable for people to get out and support it again. It's a great cause.
It's brilliant. If you didn't look at it before, it's a walk happening Stephen's Day in Clonaslee. We'll try and leave a link in the show notes. I'm not sure there is actually an organised, maybe a Facebook page or something, but come along to it because it's essentially a free walk. You just meet up and go.
It is, yeah.
But you
People
pay
make a
your bit of
donation
charity.
too,
Yeah, you make a
yeah,
donation.
yeah.
But it's a brilliant walk, bit of exercise on Stephen's Day and shake off a bit of cobwebs from Christmas, because Christmas is coming. And
Quickly.
it is coming rather quickly. We have a couple of more episodes to do before the end of the year, for sure. If you have requests or you have interest stuff, get in touch with us. If you're a business or a sponsor, if you like to sponsor the show, you can pay to be here as well. Aim, is there any other business we need to do with?
No, just talk about the Ballykilcavan segment we did as well. Would be out hopefully next week.
Hopefully next week. Yeah, we recorded
phenomenal
video and drone footage and a full round table discussion with at least 4 producers that were there the day, who are all local Laois food producers.
With great stories as well of
Yeah.
their clients, their market, things like that. 24 food producers
Yep.
in Laois, didn't even know that.
And 24 food producers who are not waiting for political manoeuvring to
Getting
try
on
and
with it.
No,
they're just getting on with
themselves.
selling their
And they're
stuff.
coming together as the main word we keep using every week, collaboration.
Collaboration
There's
together.
probably
yeah.
actually more than 24
I'd say.
producers in the county.
Oh, big time.
But there's 24 involved in that particular group. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Taste of Laois. It's they've done a lot of great work in promoting the brand and in promoting their companies and helping one another. It's the collaboration, as Eamon has said, and they work well together. And
That's why you have the Laois markets going on as well there on a Friday.
Fridays and Saturdays and things
amazing
like that.
producers there.
Support
amazing.
your local producer. I mean, honestly, it's not that much more expensive, if I'm honest, because you can get Ballykilcavan beer in Lidl. It's on the shelf, it's part of the normal run of things there. Jeans Jams is everywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, that's in every shop, so you can see it all. They're all Laois things looking for. And then we have our own beeswax gate, which is Honeygate.
Honeygate, yeah. But
Yeah.
it's not like you're going in to buy a €500 jar of
No.
jam or something. You
It's
pay an
competitively
extra
priced.
50 cents, but you mean bring it home, put it on a bit of bread, and tell me that you can taste the difference. Because I'm telling you, will.
And the oats that we had there are absolutely lovely. And
It is, yeah.
Who had the
I have
oats?
some of it at home.
The Merry Mill.
Where
Where are they based in Merry Mill?
McGainey. Well, is it McGainey? No, not McGainey. Moyana, just outside Bickerstown there.
Right.
They're the only gluten-free organic oats in the world. Well, they're not. There's another one in Montana.
one over Montana, yeah.
Yeah, there's
Absolutely
How do you
brilliant
make
story.
oats gluten free?
There's tests that they can carry out.
Go on. But are they oats?
Parts per
Oh, it is
million.
oats, yeah.
Oats, yeah.
Okay.
Parts per million of gluten.
And they're expanding, and G's Jams are expanding.
Sorry, I didn't get out there now.
4 parts per million or something.
I'm
yeah.
sorry I didn't get out there now.
He had a brilliant story about the oats, which is in videos. He told me in videos. It's not a private story. They are the only producer, or the only chosen producer in the world, of these little crackers that they use in Jerusalem. And they send 2 rabbis every year to sit and watch the harvest. So this is
start to
particular
finish, yeah.
from start to finish. The
Right.
rabbis stay in the tractor, in the harvester with them, or in the combine harvester rabbis days, and they have to meet all the guidelines. So those particular Laois producers are the only only one other producer can do this, which is in Montana.
It's a 1,000-year-old history, and they actually lock up the container, they seal it, they put all everything. It's all done by
They
these
travel with the container as well. So the rabbi travels with the container on the ship and all that. But that's all done here in Laois. It's amazing, to think the connections worldwide we have.
Yes.
We don't even know it's
Donald's
there.
mind is blown here right now. He goes, what?
And I'm in the food game. I've been in it for years and years and years. So it kind of it's all
Yeah,
interesting to me.
And this man also has organic Wagyu as well. He's
Yes,
that's right, yeah.
That's another market that.
And he does bees. You know the bees? You see the bees things he's doing? See, there's a bee experience.
Where you lie on top of a
you
bed
lie
of
on-
bees or something. yes.
800,000 bees
do
or
what?
something's underneath you. So it's a bee experience. You get into this cabin.
As in a buzzy bee.
You have
Yeah.
proper bees. Yeah,
Oh, dear
there's
God.
hives underneath.
Oh
you.
no, you're not in contact with the bees. There's a kind of a board or
Yeah,
something
bored.
between.
You're
Right,
separated
You
from
can hear them and feel like
You hear
vibrations.
them,
Yeah.
So the vibration's meant to translate through the whole thing and vibrate you at a certain vibration as well. It's meant to be
Okay.
very harmonious. Sounds hippie.
There's an
enough, but I think
experience now
love
we
to
can
have a go.
experience we can get Donal into. Like looking at his facial expressions there.
They can keep the bees.
Yeah. You're laying the
I'm
timber.
going
That's about it.
nowhere. I'm going nowhere near bees.
What's this thing between friends for content?
It's only
and podcast?
800,000 things.
I
Like.
just have to bring. I just have to bring my EpiPen with me. That's it.
We'll get you
No,
through
it sounds interesting actually. It kind of goes back to what we were talking about earlier on, though, on mental health as well.
yeah.
You know, there's
something new.
different things out there to help people.
yeah.
You know?
It does, yeah.
And it's probably a very old remedy.
That would just cause me stress now, and
Would
anxiety.
it?
And
Before you even
anxiety.
get there, you'll be actually.
Well, no, even the thoughts of them. I was on steroids and all sorts trying to get a bee sting started this year. So no.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh,
bad
wow,
experience,
no, I
that's
don't
it.
do
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
But you know,
yeah.
here's an interesting fact about a cat's purr that vibrates at a range that heals bones, and that's actually proven. So the vibration.
making
of
that
things-
up?
Come
no,
on
no,
now.
that's true. That's absolutely true. A cat's
We should
purr
actually put up a
vibrates
segment called Bob's Facts.
He's dropping some knowledge.
Yeah. Starting now in
Bob
every
drops
episode,
knowledge.
we're going to have a Bob's Facts.
Our
Yeah, we're
random
normally
fact
with
that
John's
we find.
update, so we'll have Bob's fast as well.
You know what? A round table, bit of trivia. Now, cats' purrs do what exactly?
Fix a bone.
Fix
So
a bone.
They vibrate at a bone repair level.
If only Conor McGregor had known that.
You could have sworn to them cats, but he's sworn to themselves.
Could
to
have
some
actually built a
version
cattery.
of it. Just living
And it's
together.
lying in the middle of it.
Yeah.
We're actually
Right.
creating these new experiences now, people. Just listen. Bees, cats purring. What's next?
Next week, dogs panting or something. We'll do something. I suppose, something like that.
Dehydrated dogs.
It'll cool down the dog if nothing else.
The vegans will be in.
It sounds like a delicacy.
Right, that is all our updates for this week. Thank you very much for joining. Please get in touch if you want to sponsor the show or be on the show, and subscribe, comment, share wherever you find this podcast. And we'll be back next week with Ballykilcavan update and two other podcasts recorded for Christmas. So there's a bit more time before we can get in and get away for the little Christmas break. But thank you very much for joining us. And until the next time, take care of yourself, look after yourselves, and see you later on.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye now.